Boruto Part 2, first 10 chapters over Shippuden first 10 chapters. I think that's a fun comparison, even if it makes no sense at all, because monthly versus weekly.
Do you mean artistically or writing-wise or both? Either way, I'm down to talk about it. No, you can just do both.
I mean, in that case, you should probably compare like the first 30-ish chapters of Shippuden to the first 10 chapters. But I like doing both the first 10 to 10. So where does chapter 10 end?
Chapter 10 is probably just like a couple chapters into the actual Kazekage rescue stuff.
Yeah.
Like the first 5 is probably just like the bell test and Gaara versus Datara.
Oh, you know, when does Shippuden even start?
Sasuke, chapter 547 or something. This Kakashi Chronicles is like 6 chapters. It might be 545 or something like that. Anyway,
it's definitely not 545 of 700. Okay, I found it immediately. I'm the best.
Did I say 545? I meant 245.
Yeah, literally first try. I'm the best. Yes, I'm gonna go to 255. They've just brought Gaara to the hideout. So you get the Gaara fight and I guess the Konkuro fight.
Well, okay. I guess interestingly, that's about a third of the way through the arc. I think the arc's probably like 30ish chapters. So like, I mean, we're like halfway-ish through this arc, yes. So it's like kind of comparable, but.
Okay, he says verse 20 of Shippuden. I think it'd be more than that, but here I'll go to 265, and that's 20 chapters. There's Chiyo and Sakura versus Sasori. Oh yeah, and the Might Guys team's clone fight. Okay, let's go 30 chapters to 275. This is around, yeah, this is where Sasori dies. Okay, so if we're going 30 chapters, it's up through the Sasori fight. So that said, I'm going to actually disagree in terms of comparing page count. I think Shippuden's first 30 chapters usurp the Boruto first 10 chapters. If we're going first 10 chapters of each, yeah, I'll give it to Boruto.
Let me see how many pages are in, like, these. I'll just go on Viz, because I can easily see the page count that way. 19, including the cover page, and the last page, that's nothingness, so it's 18 chapters. Probably 18 on average.
Okay.
For the Boruto ones, it's 40. So 400, so now 400 divided by
450 pages
on average would be 22 chapters. So we should compare to the first 22 chapters of the arc for page number, which is, I guess, up until the end of the Itachi clone fight, from the looks of it. Or maybe not the end of it. I guess they're still fighting Kisame. So it's in the middle of that.
Okay. Sure. Well, there you go.
I mean, it's so weird to compare them. I'll admit, at this point, this isn't like peak Naruto means.
This is one of the more controversial arcs, in my opinion.
I skimmed through the chapter with Kisame. The art is just straight up better. I'm giving that to the weekly Naruto.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Art-wise, that's just a win. In terms of writing, it's almost unfair because this is a slow arc that hasn't gotten to the big part, whereas the Boruto is absurdly too fast. So we've just gotten a lot. I feel like, I mean, granted, I guess maybe we haven't really. I don't know. But it's also unfair though because the length of the arc is just not comparable. Like I feel like the Kazekage rescue just feels like it's longer versus this Boruto one. So if we're just further through the arc, which is almost like unfair. Because imagine if you take this to the extreme, well, you can just finish the Mujina Bandits in those 3 chapters, or you can just get the first 3 chapters of the Code arc, which is what Code talking to Ada, Boruto versus Kawaki in base, and Damon being awakened. Like it's not like a good comparison.
It's funny because these dolls in Shippuden look better than the humans in Boruto.
What dolls are you looking at? Are you sharing your screen?
Yeah. It's just like Sasori and Sasori's puppets and Chiyo's puppets.
Oh, bro. Bro, hold on. Yeah, dude, Sasuke's powers are fucking goated. Like that's crazy. Yeah, they do look better than half the humans.
Yeah, I would say Shippuden's
Sasuke
more
looks
of a
good,
slow burn, but Shippuden actually has substance, whereas I feel like we haven't got any substance, anything of meaning or impactful in terms
and
of Boruto. Just got
that's the
moments.
difference because like there's more. I feel like we're getting through the big parts of the arc sooner, which makes it like feel like it should be Boruto. But like even in the slow parts, we want to talk emotion. Naruto crying about just Gara being a Jinchuriki in general is way more than we got for Inoji's death.
Yeah.
Like not Gara's death. The fact that Gara was attacked. Naruto gives us way more emotion than Inoji dying. Like, just let that sink in there. Like, because Kishima just did better at that shit. Like,
Yeah.
back then, there
Sasuke's
just
death
was
speech
there
is
was
so
emotion.
good.
There was something. We felt like there was a story, an actual thematic conflict. The treatment of Jinchuriki, the whole mystery. There's also a debatably better mystery element in this arc. Who killed the third Kazekage? What is it that Chio is like building up towards with Sasori? Like there's like some tension there. Um, I don't know. Like there's a lot of mystery with Sasori that I think is just compelling, keeps your interest gauge. Deidara is a very charismatic villain. Granted, we haven't gotten all of it yet, but I think Jura is cool too, though. But at the same, I feel like no offense to Jura though, Deidara did a lot better for like invoking a feeling in our main character Naruto. Like he made Naruto feel some type of way. Jura, yeah, Himawari rages against Jura, but like it was ass man by comparison to Naruto raging against Deidara. I feel like it's just not comparable.
Yeah. With Shippuden, it definitely feels like I was saying more impactful, not only in terms of the art with the character art and the background art, but also just the paneling. Like I'm looking at the flashbacks right now. They know when to do simple, clean art the best, just to have it the biggest impact in terms of the story. But it's not just the story; it's also the dialogue. Like this, there's so much thematic relevance and like impactfulness in this this Sasori death moment. It's absurd compared to anything in Boruto, like you're saying with Inojine's death. And sure, you get like quirky moments in Boruto and quirky characters, but like even comparing it, it's like Shippuden is not only moving the story forward, but I hate to say it, Shippuden actually has a story, whereas it feels like Boruto has only been moments. Like, even if you want to be generous and say Boruto so far has had bigger moments, because, like, comparatively, it's, like, only moments compared to Shippuden, Boruto doesn't have a story. It's not, like, narratively, cohesively, through line, moving forward, threading to something else. Even like Sasori's death is leading to something else, and that could be a little bit disingenuous because that's leading to the next arc, whereas we haven't got that. We haven't even got to the end of this arc with Boruto, so maybe we will get something of Jura foreshadowing the next arc or whatever you want to call it. But like, I feel like Shippuden
Yeah.
was always leading to something else or expecting to something else, or there was something building to something else. Like the next reunion with Naruto and Sasuke, it's different because
Yeah.
we don't get yes, we know what Boruto's building to because of the flash forward scene, but removing the flash forward scene, Boruto feels aimless because you don't know where it's going or why it's going there. You know
And
why Naruto's gonna meet Sasuke or wherever they go next.
yeah, and in regards to the Boruto Kawaki thing, that's the only thing we know we're getting towards. And that's really not even about Boruto. That's just about Kawaki. We just know that Kawaki is going to keep doing what he's already been doing, and at some point, he's just going to take it seemingly to the next level, to the extreme. But that's fairly predictable. Like, at the end of the day, he's just doing what he's already been doing. That was more relevant, in my opinion, building up to Kawaki's original turn on Boruto at the end of part one, where he like really turns on Boruto. Now it's just he's just been doing that, still doing that. That's not I almost don't even want to call it building towards anything. He's already there.
Yeah.
And then in terms of everything else, everything is just happening. It's not happening because the Akatsuki have been building towards making their move. Now they're making their move. It's just Chura was born. He's on his way to Leaf Village. Oh, that's not Naruto. Okay, we'll do this instead. It's just things happening.
Yeah, and you could say that there's loose ends in both, so the story could go in any certain direction. For example, there's Code, who still needs to be dealt with even after this arc. In Shippuden, there's the rest of the Akatsuki that still needs to be dealt with. But that's not necessarily where the story is heading in. You know where the story is going in Shippuden because it's building in that direction. Whereas there's no goal. It's like I say, it's aimless in Boruto. They could just do whatever and it doesn't matter.
When it comes, so in the regards to the Shippuden one here, I feel like the Orochimaru Sasuke would be more the mystery one, and that's the one we get a clear direction of. Go to the Tenchi Bridge. Orochimaru will be there. The Akatsuki is the one we don't get a specific direction of, but it's obvious. We know exactly what they're going to do. Keep hunting the Bichu. We know exactly what Naruto wants to do with them. Stop them. We don't need anything more than we've got. We already know. With Code, we don't know because he just says, oh, the Shinjuu will just do my job for me. Guess I'll let him do it. So then what is Code going to do himself? We don't know. What is Boruto going to do about Code now that the Shinjuu are in the way? We don't know. Like, we have zero indication of what Code will do plot-wise or story-wise.
And I really hate to go here, but Shippuden feels like a natural continuation of Naruto, which helps build and continue this grand story. Whereas Two Blue Vortex is literally a different series, and it feels like that as well. It feels like it's not telling the same narrative. There's no grand story here. There's no journey.
Because I mean,
things happening.
I don't want to. Okay, so
for the sake of happening,
we are being a little bit hard because there are some repeated core elements. The identity thing. I think that you can trace that back to part one of Boruto in a lot of different ways. A lot of that is a continuation, in my opinion. But the birth of the Shinjuu, in general, just does not feel remotely like a continuation of anything from part one of Boruto. By contrast, everything in Naruto does feel like a natural continuation. It starts with the Akatsuki are after Naruto because he has some demon beastly power in him. We already know Gaara has a very similar thing. Turns out there's 9 of them. Natural buildup. Then the Akatsuki are collecting them. Well, what happens when they collect them? Pain has one plan, Obito has another. The fact that they aggregate into one original being. That feels like a natural progression of what we had. Then after that, just absorbing it into yourself to do something, some jutsu. That feels pretty normal. And then, it turns out there was the progenitor before that. Kaguya came for the Ten Tails, kind of. She is the Ten Tails, whatever. It's just a progression.
Yeah.
But in Boruto, I hate to say it, but the Shinjuu thing is just completely irrelevant to anything and everything with Ishiki and Momoshiki. It's just completely different. There's nothing in common other than they came from divine trees, but it feels very disconnected. That isn't inherently like the end of the world. Zabuza, Orochimaru, I'm not gonna sit here and say that that's an inherent progression, but it is. I mean, it's Jonin to Sanin, so even in that regard, it is a progression, but I know it's weird. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, I will say that for Boruto, it feels like they're just doing things for the sake of doing things. Like we've said this before, it feels like they're just throwing things against the wall and saying what sticks. Whereas in Naruto, it felt like everything had a reason behind it. Even the small things, there was nuances there. For example, just comparing the time skips, there's a reason the Naruto time skip is as long as it is, both in terms of the plot and the story. Whereas in Boruto, it's just because Code got tired of waiting arbitrarily, so he just randomly decided now, out of 3 years later, to come start the story again. There's no reason behind it. There's no sake. Again, just in terms of the plot and the story, there's nothing there's no reason for it to be there, and so it shouldn't be there because it's not
Exactly.
driving the story forward.
And not only that, the
No
whole thing with
layers.
Code is just a direct, literally a direct contradiction of his mindset in part one. Like the reason why he's not invading, he just kind of he just went so much back on his word. Like he went as back on his word as humanly possible, and it devalued the time skip it to some extent because the one, the specific reason why he didn't invade in part one was Ada and Damon are there. And he invades in part two when Ada and Damon are there. Right? So, and there's not even a mention of Code saying, I decided, I came up with a strategy now. This is how I will get around Ada and Damon. He doesn't do that. It's just not addressed. It just like, from our perspective, Code is being as stupid as possible. Like,
Yeah. Shippuden's not only continuing things, but it's keeping the rules consistent. Whereas Boruto, it feels like it's doing its own thing and it's contradicting everything that came before. it's doing both wrong.
And ironically, what makes matters worse is chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex, in terms of Omnipotence's rules, felt like staying in line with what we saw. But then in chapter 6, it's already contradict chapter 1. And then, but even then, so then we get into the time skip itself. While it, quote unquote, continues where we left off, it continues where we left off in a nonsensical way that just doesn't make sense with the time skip. It's just Sara and Sumire and Ada and all in the whole first chapter feels like absolutely should have simply happened the next day or week after the end of part one. But they just are 3 years older. It doesn't even make sense that it took 3 years for this to happen.
Yeah.
Like, whereas in Naruto, the time skip itself just made perfect sense. All of, like, for example, all the Geni, they took the tuning exams with their 3 years. Makes sense. Like, whereas in Boruto, we don't even know what rank. We don't know if they took the tuning exams. If they didn't, why didn't they? Why didn't they just do it? We don't know. In terms of, just everyone was doing things that made sense. I don't want to say, like, just we weren't left wondering, why didn't they do this sooner? We were left saying, that makes sense.
This feels a little bit unfair to hound the manga for this specifically, but it's ignoring other continuities as well. Like, you can't just not do what the anime has already done and pretend like it didn't happen, or like it's just completely going against everything else. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. Or they're bringing in things from other continuities, like the novels, but then just not explaining it, so it doesn't work for the manga as a standalone in that regard either. So it's failing on both fronts again.
And I hate that. I hate when people say the anime will fix it, or it was addressed in the anime, or it's addressing something that was mentioned in the novel. That doesn't work because the Boruto manga, it's supposed to be a standalone story. What do you mean? If it has to rely on something else, what? What kind of story have you ever read that was contingent on material from another story to make sense? What? No, that's not how that works. That just like proves that the manga is bad. If that's the case, if you're admitting that the anime will fix it, or that, well, it was addressed in the novel, then you're admitting that the manga has failed, because it didn't address it itself.
Yeah. But with that all said, unless Kamui has something else to add, comments, let me know what you think about all that. Agree, disagree, anything to add, anything you think we should have taken away? And there you go.